Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Hanun Zakiyyah. I'm one of the member of Group 8 from Class 4B. In this video, I will tell you about theoretical approaches to literature. Theoretical approach to literature, there are two materials that will be specific delivered. That is reader-oriented approach and context-oriented approach. Before we go to the material, I will introduce my other members. The first one is Fitri Salsabila. The third one is Hanina Nurfadila. The fourth is Latifah Gina Asri. The table of context in this material is, the first one is meaning of reader-oriented. The second one is people respond to literature. The third one is reader-based approach. The fourth one is reader-oriented text. The fifth one is context-oriented approach. The sixth one is various approaches of context-oriented approaches. The first one is meaning of reader-oriented. In the process of written composition, a stage at which the style and structure of a text is subordinate to the needs of the reader rather than to those of the writer. Also, drafts of a text which reflect this reader. Sebelumnya di minggu kemarin kita kan sudah membahas tentang author-oriented approach. Nah, dalam pembahasan sebelumnya kan lebih spesifik fokus kepada sudut pandang si penulis kan. Nah, dalam pembahasan sekarang, di materi yang ada di video sekarang, kita lebih membahas, lebih fokus kepada si sudut pandang si pembacanya dibanding si autornya ya, atau penulisnya. Second, people respond to literature. Responding is a natural part of the reading process. When the students read a piece of literature, they respond to it by using their prior knowledge to construct meaning. That is, their transaction with the text result in the construction of their own personal meaning. By Ronsbold, 1938 till 1991. Setiap pembaca pasti memiliki respon masing-masing kan dalam setiap kali mereka membaca dari buku-buku atau enggak karya sastra ya, dengan menggunakan pengetahuan yang sebelumnya mereka ketahui atau mereka dapat dari bacaan-bacaan yang sebelumnya. Nah, dengan adanya respon, itu dapat memudahkan pembaca dalam memahami isi teks atau makna dari teks yang mereka baca. Third, reader-based approach. The reader-centered approach, based on reader response criticism, emphasizes the individual as a reader responder. It argues that reading a literary text is part of a complex process that includes a collaboration between the writer, the text, and the reader. Nah, bisa kita ketahui bahwa pembaca itu sangat diharuskan dalam berpikir kritis. Nah, dengan adanya berpikir kritis kan pasti memunculkannya kritik kan. Nah, kritik idenya tuh kita ungkapkan dalam setiap bacaan atau dalam teks bacaan yang kita baca, atau nggak dibilang teks yang pembaca baca setiap kali dalam karya sastranya tuh. Nah, pasti dengan adanya kritik tersebut pasti dimunculkannya tanggapan. Lalu setiap kali tanggapan itu kan harus kita maknai, si pembaca maknai gitu ya dibilangnya mah. Fourth, reader-oriented text. Quick reference. In the process of written composition, a stage at which the style and the structure of the text is subordinate to the needs of the reader rather than to those of the writer. Also, drafts of a text which reflect reflect this feature. For instance, compared to the earlier writer-oriented pace, a reader-oriented text might include more. Fifth, context-oriented approach. The term context-oriented approach refers here to a heterogeneous group of schools and methodologies which do not regard literary texts as self-contained, independent works of art but try to place them within a larger context. Depending on the movement, this context can be history, social and political background, literary genre, nationality, or genre. The most influential movement to this day is literary history, which divides literary phenomenon into periods, describes the text with respect to its historical background, dates text, and examines their mutual influence. This movement is associated with the discipline of history and is guided by historical methodology. An important school which places literary works in the context of larger socio-political mechanisms is Marxist literary theory on the basis of the writings of Karl Marx 1818 till 1883 and literary theoreticians in his wake, including George Lucas 1885 till 1971 and Antonio Gramsci 1891 until 1937. Texts are analyzed as expression of economic, sociological, and political factors. 6. Various approaches of context-oriented approach. The context-oriented approach considered the interrelation of the text and the context, or should I say the system of cultural practice. The first one, typological approach, it identifies the inner links between the works of one author or different author. For example, describes common trends of the literary works, typology of literary trends, typology of genres, typology of styles, and etc. Second, cultural and historical as well as comparative approaches provide the tools for exploring the influence and interrelations among the literatures. Third, the humanistic or ethical approach by Matthew Arnold claims human values to be important in the work of literature. Ethical criticism roots back to the ancient philosophers. Fourth, social and cultural approach by Frank Raymond Lewis, Herbert Richard Hogarth claim that peculiarities of the certain literary epoch are shaped by social and cultural environment. Fifth, sociological approach by Randolph Bourne, Van Wyck Brooks, F. Deal, S. Finkelstein, John Gofford Lawson, Philip Bonosky, provides critical interpretation from some political point of view. 6. Mythological approach. It includes of archetypal literary criticism, comparative mythology. By G. Grimm, James George Frazer, Arthur Taylor, A. Chambers, Friedrich Max Müller, Joseph Campbell, is based on the theory that the myth originated from rituals and is the source of spiritual life. Myth generates literature. A number of books can be deciphered using mythological codes, mythological themes, and motifs. The trans-historical archetypes can be identified by Qi Jung. 7. According to Maxims, the material reality of economic instruments forms the base that conditions the social, political, and cultural life of the superstructure. Maxims is a theory of determinacy and historical materiality. 8. Cultural materialism locates a text in its material context, but greatly enhances the relevance of language, communication, and culture. 9. New Historicism by Michael Foucault, Stephen Greenblatt says that maintain that the problem of historiography lies in the contradiction between past events and their retrospective, subjective representation. 10th, Reconstructing Historicism by Leo Strauss, Wolfgang Iser, Hans Robert Jones claims that the pastness of the text under interpretation demands accommodations of critical approach to negotiate historical difference. It studies relations between fact and fiction, history and aesthetic. 11. Feminism and Gender Theory by Simone de Beauvoir, Eleni Showalter, Erica Jong, Marge Piercy, Julia Kristeva, Irigaray address literary texts raising questions about the woman's writing, concept of femininity and gender, absence of woman from literature, sexual identity. 12. Postcolonialism and Multiculturalism in Criticism by Edward Said, Gayatri Spivak, Franz Fanon, Neil Lazarus, Homi Bhabha, Henry Louis Gates are concerned with the impact of colonialism and post-colonialism on both British culture and identities and those of the peoples under the British Empire. Postcolonial and multicultural theories are concerned with the multiple relationship between dominant and subordinate cultures. Both postcolonial and multicultural critics research the ethnic reading and rewriting of canonized literary and historical texts, the recuperation of indigenous cultures, and the construction of multicultural identities and literatures. The third one, eco-criticism by William Rickert, Raymond Williams, Annette Collodi is a literary and cultural criticism from an environmentalist viewpoint. Texts are evaluated in terms of their environmental, harmful, or helpful effects. Eco-criticism analyzes the history of concepts such as nature in an attempt to understand the cultural development that have led to the present global ecological crisis. Okay, anyone? That's all the material for today. Is there any question? If you have any question, please just ask for the next meeting on Friday on the literature class. Yes, or you can ask in the WhatsApp. Just chat me or Hanina or Fitri Salsabila or Latifah Gina. Okay. That's all from us. Thank you very much for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.